It appears every single week there always is some new drama going on in the TikTok art community. There's always something new to hate, or a new artist to laugh at, or some bloody art law just dropped and everyone is using it to make videos. And for this week, it appears what we're hating now is chicken scratch, which has now somehow become an art style, and people on TikTok are hating it precisely because of that. Let's talk about it, I guess. Hey, how's it going and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about the chicken scratch art style, which is apparently driving TikTok artists mad for reasons we're going to talk about later on in this video. But before we even begin, I'd like to ask you guys something that I have been pondering over since I started making this video. Is chicken scratch an actual art style, or is it just a simple drawing technique that can be used whenever you feel like it? Please let me know in the comments, because my brain is literally almost fried just scrolling through TikTok for hours. The chicken scratch art style, or drawing technique, or however you want to refer to it, is a method of drawing where the lines appear very loose and shaky, and for the most part very sporadic and out of place. Not to be confused with dotted or broken lines, chicken scratching often looks like the artist using the technique is having a hard time drawing in one stroke, so they tend to use really short, quick and rough strokes to start off their drawings, which end up making the drawings look rather messy. This article on Quora discussing chicken scratch described it as a helpful part of the artistic process that allows artists to quickly capture their initial ideas and concepts without getting caught up in details. It's a way to explore different compositions, shapes, and forms before committing to a more refined drawing. It's a common technique used by artists to brainstorm and experiment with different ideas before moving on to more polished artwork. Now, while different artists have their own perceptions of what is and what isn't to be considered as chicken scratching, a lot of people starting out with art tend to lean towards this method of drawing because realistically it is the most comfortable way for a newbie artist or someone who's just learning to draw to gradually start using slow lines while they spend more time thinking about what they're trying to draw, and then build up the confidence to actually put that thought in their head onto the paper. I think it has become the standard and has been made widely popular that every artist should be able to draw a line in one stroke or to use broad, confident strokes in their drawings. Even I happen to strive for that type of confidence in my drawings as well. But artists who use chicken scratch and continue to draw that way even when they have quote-unquote improved their art all have their reasons for doing so, and all these reasons are justified. Some artists like the way it looks and enjoy loose and rough drawings and like to keep their line art that way, while others just don't like clean lines as it looks very technical and rigid and sometimes boring, if you will. Another artist on Quora stated their reason for using the chicken art style was due to a slight disability rather than choice on their part. I do this because I have poor small motor control. I cannot produce an acceptable line in the first try in many cases. I have spent many hours practicing with ink and brush and similar techniques that force one to develop confidence and simplicity of line. My innate physical shortcoming has not fundamentally changed over the years, so most of the time I move my pencil in a sketchy, repetitive motion using shorter or longer strokes depending on what I'm drawing. Somewhere in there will be the line I want, then I simply run over the one I want to emphasize it and erase the excess. Chicken scratching has always been used by artists, and I never really paid attention to it until all of a sudden it became a bad thing or a bad art style, and then it just started getting all this hate on TikTok. Because obviously someone who thinks they're cool said it's an ugly looking art style and it also doesn't look good and makes you look unprofessional as an artist, so everyone should immediately start hating on it. At this point we have all come to realize that like I actually look good today, man. I'm looking in like my camera monitor and I can see that this shirt looks good and I just look good. By the way, if you're wondering why I have a shirt on, it was my birthday yesterday. So everyone go wish me happy birthday under this picture I posted on Instagram. I had a little nice dinner and some nice food and some nice wine, and I had a nice time.
What do you mean by that?
Go wish me happy birthday under that post right now. Just pause the video and go on Instagram and wish me a happy birthday. I think at this point we have all come to realize that TikTok always has a ridiculous reason to hate on art at any given time. Sometimes it could be for legit reasons like the anatomy looks bad or the colors look muddy. Other time it could be just funny out of line reasons like this. But somehow TikTok kind of surprised me this time, where for the first time they actually brought out some decent arguments trying to convince people why chicken scratch art is bad and why artists shouldn't use it in their work. Reason number 1, chicken scratching is unprofessional. Now this assumption probably stems from this idea that artists have of what is and isn't professional art, and I think the art styles that are called professional art are mostly seen as those clean rendered and flashy art we see on covers of video games and game cards from Blizzard, Hearthstone, World of Warcraft, and all similar games that have very interesting art. Because most of these art styles are very clean and lack line art, they're sometimes considered as the professional look, even when art like these are made for games and are simplified with more line art or a comic style look. The lines are still cleaned up and inked, which is why most people assume that this is what professional art is supposed to look like. But then again, there are still artists who make art for video games that don't look anywhere as clean as this and are still loose and sketchy, and they still get paid to make art for video games. Now some of these artists might not be necessarily using chicken scratch exactly, but they still draw in a loose and carefree art style while still staying confident with their line work and mark making. The comments on this TikTok video had a lot of other artists who went out of their way saying they prefer the messier and looser styled drawings using chicken scratch as opposed to clean drawings, and almost everyone was agreeing with each other and saying the same thing. But before we move on to the next part of this video, let me tell you briefly about the sponsor of today's video, Hostinger. Before I started making videos on YouTube, I was primarily getting my earnings from doing commissions and freelance work, but I always had one problem. I never had a proper website where I could host my entire portfolio, and this is extremely important for artists running any business and trying to make a profit off of their skills, because having a proper dedicated website gives you an edge in this competitive niche, and that is precisely where Hostinger comes in. Hostinger is an all-in-one website builder that lets you create fully functional websites for your portfolio, business, online store, or brand without learning how to code or learning any technical skill, all with the help of artificial intelligence. Hostinger has made it very easy for beginners and people new to the world of digital commerce to create a website and go live in just a few clicks. And here's how you can do it as well. Go to hostinger.com/Mohammed10, select the website builder plan, choose a subscription plan that works for you, but I'll recommend the 48-month option since it adds additional months extra, locks in the lowest price, and comes with a domain for the first year. After you're all set, you can then choose if you would like to start off from scratch or with a template, and in literally a few seconds you have a fully functional website for yourself without any coding skills needed. And then you can start to move things around, change the images, text, and colors, and customize it until you're satisfied with how it looks. It even adds a feature with reviews for you, which is a great plus. And all this just took a couple of seconds to set up. Once you're satisfied with everything, you can hit save and go live when you're ready for the world to witness greatness. Hostinger makes it so easy to build a website from scratch, and they want you to try it out for yourself and see. So head over to hostinger.com/Mohammed10 and use code Mohammed10 to save 70% off, and also get an additional 3 months for free. All the links will be in the description, and a big thank you to Hostinger for sponsoring this video. Reason number 2. If you chicken scratch, you're a beginner. I think I speak for most artists when I say we all started out drawing with chicken scratch as beginner artists. There's no possible way for you, a beginner artist, to just start out drawing and immediately be good. Why most artists chicken scratch as beginners is because they're not confident enough in their strokes and have not yet practiced enough to build the confidence it takes to draw with broader strokes and confident lines. So drawing gradually and slowly with short strokes is going to be their go-to art style for the time being. Another thing that also makes artists draw with short strokes could be the way you hold your pen or pencil and how you move your hand across your canvas, drawing tablet or paper. Some people who hold the pencil close to the tip could possibly find themselves drawing with shorter strokes, resulting in their drawings looking like chicken scratch, and other people who draw from the wrist and barely move their entire hand across the canvas might also have this problem as well. I found this video from Mark Brunette that pretty much explains this in detail.
Stop ruining your line work. There's nothing that looks more amateur than chicken scratch line drawings like this. Usually that's going to be as a result of drawing from the wrist, and you should never do that. It's fine for tiny details, but that's all it's good for. Thankfully, there's an easy fix. For long, confident strokes, you gotta use the entire arm. The main difference here is between having both your wrist and elbow on the table or the tablet versus the right way, having only your wrists laying on the surface you're drawing on, all the while leaving the elbow and shoulder free to move. Technique matters. Start practicing the right way and you should see drastic improvements.
Reason number 3. Chicken scratching is a bad habit and it ruins your art. One thing I don't like is when people say something ruins your art, but then don't explain exactly how it ruins it. Every time I found these videos saying chicken scratch ruins your art, it always ended up with them giving the same reasons as everyone else who was complaining about the chicken scratch art style, without properly saying how it was exactly ruining your art. From the looks of it, most people who enjoy drawing with chicken scratch don't really care if their art looks messy or ugly. They're not trying to make their line work look super precise or trying to achieve a fine single stroke. Most of the comments on these posts were artists saying how they enjoyed chicken scratch and how they were comfortable drawing that way and wouldn't sacrifice it for anything. While solid lines are nice, chicken scratch adds personality and makes it feel more authentic. I feel like it does kind of add personality to your drawings, especially because the drawings are just loose and really sketchy, so it feels much more authentic and has a personality. But every single time I try to do it in my own drawings, it just never works out for me at all. My friend Hisham Hapchi doesn't draw in the chicken scratch art style per se, but his drawings are still pretty loose and convey a sense of energy in them. You can also try to adopt this kind of looseness in your drawings, just don't overdo it. If not, your drawings will just start lacking form and you'll just look like you really don't even know what you're doing at all. Confident lines make my art look lifeless. Without chicken scratching, my traditional art looks like a non-artist tried to make art of an experienced artist sketch. I purposely changed my style to chicken scratch instead of clean lines because it looks better. One thing I also noticed on TikTok is that some artists are confusing chicken scratch with hatching and cross hatching, which are both different methods of shading a drawing to show dimension and 3D forms on a 2D plane. Some of the artists making these chicken scratch videos happen to just draw and then shade their drawings either using hatching or cross hatching, but then for some reason they assume it falls under the chicken scratch when it technically really isn't. This is chicken scratch, this is hatching, and this is cross hatching. You can see there is an apparent difference between all three of them and one can't be mistaken for the other. Although some artists usually switch between hatching and cross hatching in their drawings depending on what they are drawing and how they want to portray the forms, but for the most part the difference is still clear when it comes to chicken scratching and every other form of drawing. They don't want us to use chicken scratch, yet when we have clean lines they claim it's AI generated. I'm sick of the disrespect towards artists. It has gotten so insane that at this point you literally can't differentiate an actual artist post on Instagram and an account filled with just AI art. I have to spend so much time scrolling through the account and zooming into each image just to be sure that okay, this is an actual person instead of just assuming it's AI. But then sometimes when I think it's an actual person, I just go back to the account and look at the top of their page and read their bio, and there it just says something about AI generated images or stable diffusion and whatnot. And now some artists have become aware of that fact and are beginning to combine AI generated concepts and then paint over the drawings in Photoshop to create their final image. So I guess there's that. I feel like there's too much unsolicited advice in the art community. Like, dude, nobody asked. If a beginner asks you for help, great. If not, don't make people feel like shit for drawing in a way that makes them feel confident. This statement literally hit the nail on the head, and I don't have anything to say against it. There's so many people giving advice and critiques that nobody asked for, especially targeted towards beginner artists, without proper context and taking into consideration how a beginner artist is actually going to use this advice and make it practical to their progress. I started seeing this trend pop up the more short form videos started getting popular and being promoted across all platforms. At this point, artists can't even catch a break at all, and literally drawing something you genuinely enjoy is totally out of the picture. No one is saying to stop giving art advice, but just try to understand the level a person is at before forcing your opinion about their personal art down their throats. Let beginners just draw and have fun. Let them gain some experience drawing and making mistakes before you start yelling at them about how bad their art is and telling them their art sucks, because time and time again we've seen beginners quit art because of how people treated them after seeing their drawings. It's called a sketch for a reason. It gets cleaner eventually, but now is not the time. Honestly, whenever I do line art on my sketches, it looks so bad I just stay messy. I do it because I hate line art. Chicken scratching really makes your art more expressive. Literally almost every single comment is someone saying they hated clean lines because they look too boring, and expressing how much they enjoy chicken scratch because it makes their drawings look expressive and full of life. And I understand this because drawings that are usually loose and feel sketchy always tend to have more personality in them and look way more energetic and dynamic. So that's something you should always keep in mind if you're stuck on the fence trying to figure out if you should have really super clean line art, or if you want to try chicken scratching and have a very loose, sketchy art style, I guess. I think the majority of artists will argue that the chicken scratch art style looks better, and in some cases I might agree with them, but it always depends on the artist, what they're trying to draw, who they're trying to draw it for, and what kind of art inspires them. I personally enjoy with broad strokes and leaving long straight lines in my work, and I always draw that way every single chance I get. So if you're someone that enjoys drawing with short messy strokes and it makes you confident in your work, by all means do it and have fun. You can always go over the drawing on another layer if you want to have cleaner lines if you're drawing digitally, or just slightly erase some of the lines and go over the drawing with thicker, darker lines if you're drawing traditionally. And if you gradually start to feel like your drawings are getting a little too messy, or you want to practice drawing with more precise lines, or you just feel like your line work could use a little bit more confidence, then you can always loosen up and try drawing from your elbows so you can pull the pen farther across the canvas, especially for longer lines. And if you have a very large drawing area, you can always draw from your shoulder as well. I feel like art styles are a way for every artist to express what makes them unique as an artist without the interference of any outside influence. But nowadays it's just becoming increasingly difficult for artists to express themselves truly without being mocked or ridiculed by other people who don't appreciate and value art enough to allow other people enjoy it. Art styles should be the last thing that should be criticized or made fun of on the internet. Just because everyone's interpretation of art and what it should look like is different. We all have artists we enjoy and admire for different reasons, and because we consume their art one way or another, we're going to subconsciously pick things we like about their work and try to use that in our work, knowingly or unknowingly. So judging a person's art because of the way they draw is a rather ridiculous way of offering help or critique. If you want to help an artist or point out mistakes in their work, take into context how the artist is drawing, if it is realistic or stylized and cartoony, and then look at things like anatomy, forms, lighting and shading, and how the proportions match across the other features of the face or body before jumping into conclusions and calling the artist out because you believe their work is inferior, just because they're not trying to draw like Sam does art or any of your other favorite artists. Anyways, that's all I have for you today. If you enjoyed this video, please leave it a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new here. With all that being said, I'll see all you pretty penguins in the next video. Bye.